Disclosure Day is the 35th movie from Steven Spielberg, who is arguably the most legendary director of the past 50 years. And he's going back to one of his favorite genres. What would happen if we found out aliens actually came to Earth? Except this time, the whole premise is about a whistleblower played by Josh O'Connor, who is going on the run with a stack of classified documents that have been hidden from the general public for decades. And it's a bunch of footage that proves aliens are here. They have been hidden by this shady corporation and the government, of course. And I was very excited for this movie when it was announced. I mean, besides The Fabelmans, which I absolutely loved, that was Spielberg's last movie. It's probably my favorite from him in this entire century so far. I absolutely love it. It feels like a very personal film to him. And I think I'm very biased because I'm somebody that wants to make movies. That's the whole point of this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. So selfishly, The Fabelmans really works for me. I love that movie. I understand why it's not like a huge general public hit though. And he's made a lot of movies that people have liked recently, like The Post and West Side Story and stuff like that, but we haven't seen a Steven Spielberg classic in a very long time. But Disclosure Day really felt like it could be the first return to form Steven Spielberg that we've all wanted for such a long time. There was just something in the air with the build up to this movie that we were being promised something special and something memorable, and I was very excited. I sat down in the theater yesterday. This was the first like big summer movie I was looking forward to, and I watched it. I've seen a lot of the reactions to it, and it seems like a lot of people are either saying this is Spielberg's best movie of the century, and other people are like, this is the movie where he should wrap it up. I think both of those takes are ridiculous. For me personally, I had a great time for like 85 minutes. The problem with that statement is the entirety of this movie is 145 minutes. And I want to get into it because my problems with Disclosure Day are not like major what the fuck is going on problems. Like, I don't think it goes into horrible territory at any point. For me, it's just the fact that the first like act one for sure, then like 2/3 of act two are brilliant. Like, it's the Spielberg I fell in love with. They are absolutely great. And the thing about this movie is it's the thing that is both a compliment and a criticism, I guess, of the entire experience. And that thing is that Disclosure Day feels like a huge second act for a much larger movie. From the second it starts, we are in the middle of the action, and by the time it ends, you're like, yeah, where's the other 30 to 45 minutes of this? I also kind of felt that to a degree when walking out of the movie, but there are a lot of things I really like about Disclosure Day, and I want to talk about those first. For starters, Steven Spielberg is currently 79 years old, and watching this movie, it feels like he's still at the peak of his powers. And I didn't think we were ever going to see that from him again. As much as I like The Fabelmans and it felt Steven Spielberg-y, like there have been a lot of movies over the past 20 years where it just felt like the juice was gone a little bit. And I love Steven Spielberg as a person. He has made his stamp on Hollywood history for a reason. The guy is arguably the legend. But you know, a lot of these directors get older. Some of them make Megalopolis. Some of them are like Martin Scorsese and they keep putting out bangers. And I thought Steven Spielberg wasn't going like full Megalopolis territory, but it didn't feel like he had a lot of bangers left in him. And I apologize to Mr. Spielberg gravely, because if there's one thing that's clear about Disclosure Day is the man still has it, and he hasn't lost a beat when it comes to actually directing. He's always been one of my favorites in terms of shot composition. I mean, the guy will sneak in 5 or 6 different shots in one take, and he doesn't do it in like a show-offy kind of way. You know, there's a lot of directors, I would even include myself in this, of long takes I've thought about doing for movies where you kind of show off that it's a long take. I think Paul Thomas Anderson had that to a degree too, a bit earlier in his career, but Spielberg's like, nah, I'm not doing it to show off. I'm just going to do it. And I think he just proves that he's kind of a natural when it comes to that kind of stuff still at this age. And you can really see that in the action set pieces. There are 2 here in particular that are incredible. There's one that's a car chase that feels very classic Steven Spielberg adventure movie, but there's parts where cars are like driving through a house and it all looks real. Like, I'd be convinced it's very real. And if it's not all real, congratulations to the special effects department in that scene, because it looks incredible. It's super exciting. It gets the blood pumping. It had a smile on my face. Like, to me, it was awesome to see Spielberg still being able to do this kind of stuff. And the second involves a train and some cars. And when you're watching it within the context of the movie, it is definitely pretty ridiculous. But the entire sequence is so well choreographed that even though that one definitely has a lot of CGI in it, but I think if you can make a CGI fight scene exciting, you kind of forgive the fact that it's a CGI cutscene at all. And to me, this is one of those moments where the entire sequence is so awesome. It feels like it was one practical effect away from being used in the next Mission Impossible movie and Tom Cruise doing this thing for real. Like, it was so awesome. And that's not the only thing Spielberg is still good at. I think those first 90 minutes, there's such like a momentum building within the storytelling that is unmatched. I know there's a lot of people complaining about this movie, but even when they talk about the movie, they're really complaining about the payoff at the end of the movie. I don't think any people are going to argue about the fact that the first like hour to hour and a half here, like everyone was invested of what the hell is going to happen. And for those first 90 minutes, it feels like there's not a second wasted. Like I drank too much water before I went into my screening. I really had to pee like within the first 10 minutes. And those first like 90 or so minutes, I was waiting for a point where I was like, okay, maybe I can sneak to the bathroom real quick. But the movie wastes none of your time. Everything felt important. Everything was serving a purpose within the story. And every moment felt like it was helping build the mystery. And there was finally like one scene I could tell as soon as it started playing out, I was like, okay, this is my moment. My theater was luckily like right next to the bathroom. So I probably walked out, peed, and walked back within like 17 seconds. But ironically, I felt like I left at the point where the story nosedives a little bit. Because like I said, I'm going to talk about the problems I have with the movie, but I really do want to emphasize this because I don't think a lot of people are. And obviously everyone sees movies in a different way. But to me, those moments up until a point in the movie, I was thinking to myself like, yeah, this is like a top 3 movie of the year for me. I was absolutely loving it. And I also love Emily Blunt's performance in this movie. Everybody else in the cast is good. There's a lot of great talent in here for sure. People like Coleman Domingo and Colin Firth and all these kinds of people are doing things that feel like they're familiar in terms of the realm of their capabilities. And I like all of them as actors, but Blunt is just so good here. She's been one of my favorite actresses in Hollywood for a while now, but this just moved her up a couple pegs on the list because she is asked to do so much to the point where like when you're watching the movie at first, you don't realize how good she actually is. But there are scenes where she is back and forth between being the most confused person in the room and also the most intelligent. And that's like within the same dialogue exchange multiple times in the movie. She'll seamlessly go into speaking different languages within long takes of the movie. And then I found out those alien noises that you hear in the trailer are actually her. Like sure, the sound mixing guy definitely played around with it and made like an effect out of it. But the fact that she's like doing a lot of that is pretty crazy. And like I said, everyone else is good. Like Josh O'Connor is the other star of this movie. I like Josh O'Connor. I think he's good in everything he does, but it's really hard to match with the part that Emily Blunt is given in the first place, but also her performance. Like she was the perfect person to cast for this movie. And maybe this is the part where we could start pivoting to my problems with Disclosure Day, because there are some other compliments I'm going to give along the way, but I can't talk about them without talking about the things that let me down about the movie. So let's just hop into it. I think the worst part of the film is that it feels like Steven Spielberg had 5 or 6 ideas for a new Alien movie he wanted to make. And instead of picking one of those and running with it, he decided to put all 6 of them in a blender and said, God, I really hope this works, because Eve Hewson plays the girlfriend of Josh O'Connor's character in this movie. And within the first hour, like their dynamic is by far the most interesting part of the movie for me. Like as good as Emily Blunt is and the mystery around her character, that there's a situation going on here. I don't think this is a spoiler because they literally tell you all of this in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie. So I think you're good. If you haven't seen the movie yet, stick around. I'm going as spoiler free as possible, but she is a very religious person. She was borderline going to become a nun at some point. And while Josh O'Connor firmly believes that everyone should have knowledge of this information and be able to see it for themselves, she ends up being really against the idea. She's like, I think this is going to be a problem, because if you just release all this stuff, what happens to people's faith and beliefs in not just religion, but like every sort of system? And how does the world not fall apart with that kind of information getting let out to the public? And my rebuttal to that argument is, girl, we got the UAP files this year. Nobody has given a shit so far. We also just exposed that hundreds, if not thousands, of the most powerful people in the world, whether it be politicians or celebrities, were either friends with or visiting the island of the most famous human sex trafficking guy of the century, maybe ever in written history, and nothing's been done about it. I think we could handle the aliens. But I still think that relationship being put to the test is by far the most interesting part of the movie. And then it goes pretty much nowhere after the first hour, except for like one phone call. And I think Spielberg is handling that conversation with the perfect amount of care. Like every conversation around it, I was like, you know what? I never thought about this. This is a pretty interesting way to talk about it. And I just don't think David Koepp put that same amount of care into the storytelling when he was writing the script, because Koepp has written some of the most legendary films of all time. Some of those movies he wrote for Steven Spielberg, but he's also written some pretty terrible garbage over the last 15 to 20 years. And it might be time to call a spade a spade. David Koepp might be washed. Because like I said, when you are watching the movie, Spielberg has not lost an ounce of energy when directing. And I know most of this story was his idea, so he's not like free of responsibility here. Like he definitely has a part in making the story not feel as complete. But deciding to separate the two characters that have the most interesting relationship so early into the movie is a big mistake. And they try and pair Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt. Like the whole point of the movie to a degree is them trying to meet up with each other. And I think each of their stories are individually intriguing on their own. But when they come together, there is nothing. There's no romantic relationship. There's no chemistry or banter whatsoever. And it just feels so awkward. And by the end of the movie, there's no payoff for this relationship whatsoever. And it just feels like they had to fit together two different alien idea movies into one. And I just don't think it fully works. And I've been rewatching all of Steven Spielberg's movies because I'm bringing back my director ranking videos. If you've seen those, you know I put a lot of effort into them. They're my favorite videos to make, but they are the most time consuming. And Spielberg has made 35 movies, so it's taking a while. It's going to come out in a few weeks. Be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it. I would really appreciate it if you did, because I am working on it. It's just a super long video. But I think the thing that defines a Spielberg movie and why he's considered one of the best, if not the best, is that he just makes perfect movies. Like when he gets it right, I don't know how to describe this. It just feels like from beginning to end, there's just like a perfect bow, and everything you want in a movie is there. You could definitely argue there's been more talented filmmakers. You could argue that there are filmmakers that have an overall stronger body of work, but I think there's no denying when Steven Spielberg makes a hit, it is considered one of the most important movies of all time. It is a movie that almost everybody alive has seen at some point in their lives. And Disclosure Day just does not have that we tied this whole thing up in a nice bow kind of feeling at all. The last act, especially, even before the last act, it's like the part of the movie where the information finally starts getting revealed to you and you start figuring out what's been going on. We start getting some answers, and I think it just took all of the wind out of all of the sails. The movie just halts, and it never recovered for me personally. And that's the interesting thing about talking about this movie, because a lot of people online I saw said the third act is what saved the movie for them. I could not disagree more. To me, it is by far like the just flattest payoff of a movie like this. I don't fully hate it. Like there are parts and choices. I'm not going to spoil anything. I swear to God. There are smart choices being made about the things being shown that Spielberg has clearly thought out, and I think on paper are effective, and I don't think he's trying to be too ambiguous with it. It's pretty spelled out by the end of the movie, but to me, it just feels like you're watching a sequence play out, and there's certain things, like obviously with Spielberg, there's always been, like a lot of these movies, he's not going for full realism, right? Like there is a kid-like, adventure-like quality to them, so I know you have to suspend your disbelief, but I just feel like we're watching a sequence play out, and it feels like two older guys that think they've thought this entire thing out, but you're just watching it, and I just feel like if it was playing out in real life, everyone would be like, what? We're all just gonna buy this? Like, I don't know how else to say it. And by the last frame, I just did not care. It just feels like there should be another 45 minutes, and I know that's the point of this movie. The story we are being told is not to find out everything about aliens. The story we are being told is what would happen if we all found out about aliens. That is the movie, and the movie delivers on that part of it. I just think the natural conception of the idea makes you want to know more. And I think you could still have a satisfying ending without explaining everything, and I don't think Disclosure Day does that. By the last line, I was kind of like, like I wanted to convince myself I liked the movie more because I love the first 90 minutes, but after sitting on it, I just can't get there. In the last 10 minutes, there was a guy snoring in my row, and I could kind of understand why. It's also just lacking that heart that I think a lot of the other Spielberg movies have. He definitely tries to get you there, and clearly it has worked for some people. It just does not for me. I think Spielberg still has that wonder you have when watching a Spielberg movie. Like there's clearly like, there's just like an intangible thing where again, there are better filmmakers that make better movies. But when you watch his movie, there's just like an undeniable magic. It's like watching an original Walt Disney movie. But when it comes to the heart of it, like, look, I watched The fucking Post last week. I had never seen it. I thought it was good for a while. And then the last last 15 minutes, I was crying. I was like, damn, this is a really good movie. The same thing happened with me when I watched Bridge of Spies in theaters years ago, where the first like hour and a half, I was like, God, this is such a slog. And by the end of that movie, I was crying. Like, Spielberg just has a natural like gift for that kind of thing. I wanted Disclosure Day to give me that same feeling. It did not come close. Also, I know the CGI animals were a big complaint for people when the first teaser trailer dropped, and myself included. Once I saw that image, I was like, what are we doing? I was very skeptical, but I was like, I gotta give Steven the benefit of the doubt here. I gotta see Mr. Spielberg's movie and see if the animals have a good payoff. They do not. The CGI for them looks abysmal. It looks like you are watching a Coca-Cola Christmas commercial. It just is not a great look. They also tried making the animals into popcorn buckets. I could not believe this. When I was in line, my girlfriend wanted popcorn and a drink, so I was standing there and I'm like, what the hell is that? They turned the animals into a popcorn bucket. I know the marketing team feels obligated to do this, but I promise you right now, it is okay. Not every movie needs a popcorn bucket. In fact, sometimes I think it might be a very bad idea because I don't see anybody buying this. Who is going to buy the Stag and the Cardinal Disclosure Day popcorn bucket? I can't think of a single person that would be like, you know what? I'm going to spend $30 on this. And again, when it comes to this movie, they had me in the first half. I was like, man, this is a very, very high 7 or even an 8. But the balloon just deflated in the last 40 minutes. And I have to come down to a solid 6 out of 10. I still enjoyed it overall. I didn't regret going to the theater. I had a good time with it. It is going to leave a lot of audience members feeling very mixed about it. I'd still call it a good movie. I like Steven Spielberg going back to this kind of story. I think it's really cool. And let's be honest. Let's address the elephant in the room. We don't know how many more Steven Spielberg movies we're going to get. And I think after watching this movie, even though I didn't love it, I was watching it like, man, this guy might still have like one more 5-star banger left in him. I just don't think it's with David Koepp. I think he needs to work with somebody else. There's going to be a script where he sees it and he's like, fuck, I got to tell this story. And I really hope we get to see that movie one day. So let me know in the comment section down below. Did you love Disclosure Day? Did you hate it? Were you like, it was okay? I make videos giving my honest thoughts on modern movies while I try and make movies of my own. So if you want to follow for the journey or follow for the conversation, you are in the right place. So be sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it if you did. And either way, this is Chase. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have an awesome day. Thanks.